button.
Yes. Hello guys, my name is Brandon, and we have Group 7 over there where we talk about recruiting. So these are topics about recruiting. We have myself, which is identifying need and position development. Quinn, who's going to be doing recruitment planning, and then Matt's going to be doing social media recruitment, and then select and search committee is going to be done by Shauna, and then searching is Ed, and then finally conducting interviews is going to be Ryan. So what is recruiting? Recruiting is the overall process of selecting. That's why. All right, we're good. So recruiting is the overall process of selecting, searching, shortlisting, and applying candidates for a position in set organization. So believe it or not, we've all been recruited at one point or another in our lives. Whether it's like in grade school being like recruited for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or more recent as in like part-time jobs, full-time jobs, and even internships. And we were all recruited to come to Rowan, whether it's through open houses, emails, and all that. And we all ended up here. So my experience with recruiting is coming out of high school, I thought I wanted to run track and field, and I don't want to brag or anything, but I was a state champion, conference champion, decided not to run, but there was various steps that we took to make sure I was going to be a runner, but I didn't want to. And these are some of the schools that recruited me. Mount St. Mary's was in Maryland, Rider. They're all the others are just New Jersey schools. And again, I didn't like running, but the recruiting process has taught me so much about recruiting in general. So these schools would set me down. I'd go meet with them. I had overnight visits and everything like that to see if I liked the school. And these schools kept contact with me through phone calls, text messages, emails. I even had a recruiter surprise visit me at my house, and like I wasn't there. And then my dad told him that like we were at a pizza shop local by, and he came by and paid for all my meals with my boys. So I was hyped. So in organizations, there are various and numerous positions such as accountants, sales team managers, maintenance workers, and they all have a wide range of skill sets. And it's all set by set personnel. Identifying organizational personnel needs are essential to the business of the organization. It is on the human resource manager and the human resource team to set these standards and align these skill sets and qualifications with the positions needed.
I predicted that.
Oh. How did I do this?
You let one of those guys come over there.
How do we like stop that from happening?
You know what? We've never determined the cause of it. And it usually only happens once, like every other one. So it's not the computer going to sleep or anything. It's some sort of hiccup in the, what's it called, the mirror thing?
Yeah, AirPlay.
Yeah. Oh, you got a different code now, 1283. Brandon, remember to anchor yourself.
Anchor? Okay, I'm moving around.
Don't worry about it. If you mess up some words or something, work on the anchor. Breathe.
So there are two courses of action when doing or setting a job description. So the first course of action is for newly created positions. You're gonna have to. The first step is to identify goals, short-term and long-term for organization, and then the second step is conducting a job analysis. So and then replacing a terminated employee or an employee who left. The first step is conduct a job analysis. Keep going. Conduct a job analysis, and then you do take a step back and do a retrospective to see the job perspective.
Okay.
A job description, or what the cool kids call a JD, is a document that describes tasks, responsibilities, and duties of the position. When developing a job description, the key of a successful recruitment process is used to develop interview questions, interview evaluations, background checks, reference checks. When there's a job posting, it's usually on some type of outlet, whether it is the company website or a third party like ZipRecruiter, Indeed, LinkedIn. There's a multitude of outlets for jobs posting to be posted on. Before job description is created, there are 5 essential elements that need to be factored into the job description. First is general information. So this includes location of the position, the pay scale, and the title of the position. And then I like to call this the position porpoises, because like dolphins are porpoise, so I thought that was kind of funny. So this includes like the overall functions of the organization and the department. So and what they entail, the short-term, long-term goals. It's not very job specific at this point. So this is like where the function. The third step is the function, the essential job function. So this includes the daily responsibilities and duties and responsibilities of that certain position. And then this is the fourth step is the minimum qualifications, which is the minimum criteria to even be considered for the position. So such as valid driver's license, ability to work in the United States, and then so on and so forth. And then the fifth and final factor is preference skills. So these are skills and experience that are preferred among the basic qualificationship. So that could be college degree, experience, and I'll touch on experience more later on, but this is the more higher up. So experience is the most emphasized qualification you can have when recruiting, because it shows employers that like you know what you're doing and you have I don't say experience yet, but you have some background in what you're doing. And now I'm going to pass it off to Quentin, who's going to do development, the planning of the plan. Wow, that was bad. But
Do I have to pause it?
I can pause it or.
I'm quitting. It's still paused? I thought it.
That's bad.
It's in the bottom left corner.
I'm quitting. I'm gonna introduce to you guys recruitment planning. Longest 20 seconds of my life. All right, with recruitment planning, a quick description of recruitment planning is each position is required to have a certain recruitment plan. It's a carefully structured and strategic plan that allows. Can I have like 1 minute?
You bet.
Can I restart?
Mm-hmm. What do you think, guys? Can we restart?
All right. With recruitment planning, each position in the organization requires a specific recruitment plan, and it's a carefully structured strategic plan that allows organizations to hire the best candidates for the position. First step is to revise job descriptions. In organizations, job descriptions and jobs often change over time, especially as companies expand. You would ask like team leaders and the people under the team leaders if their roles have changed over time, and if it hasn't changed over time, normally it's for smaller companies that don't have like a formal job description for their staff members, and it would allow them to do a job analysis, which would which would help the organization post on the job form that have a more accurate description of what the job entails. The second is to conduct a skill gap analysis. The skill gap analysis is when the organization assesses the skills of the skills of the staff, and whether it's like their current skills, what skills they need in the future, and if they're like small or big skill gaps. If the skill gaps are small, then they would need they, if the skill gaps are small, they would need a training program for the current employees, and the skill gaps are big, then they need to hire more people on to the team. Next, you need to visualize your hiring activity. When visualizing your hiring activity with the skill gap analysis, it gives you a general idea of how many people you would need for that job. And when you're hiring people, say your marketing team has a big project due in June, you would like to hire people in like the first quarter, like early January, so people can get accustomed to the roles that they have and get all the training that they need to do out of the way so they can perform their jobs efficiently. Next is to revamp your hiring process, whether your hiring coordinators are doing a good job, your interviewers need to be unbiased, whether your new hires have a high turnover rate, your new hires are performing to their expectations, etc. You need to have that information to have that information to understand how you guys are hiring and if you guys are doing it efficiently enough. And then you need to create a hiring budget. Creating a hiring budget allows you to have like X amount of dollars for X amount of positions. And so you could stay in budget for who you need to be hiring, and like salaries, background checks, insurance and benefits and stuff of that nature. And then you need to think in terms of hiring teams with more structured interviews, have more unbiased interviewers, because interviewers can be more biased at times. And for the recruitment planning, you need to revise job descriptions and conduct a skill gaps analysis, visualize your hiring activity, revamp your hiring process, create a hiring budget, and think in terms of teams. Code is incorrect. Oh, 0863. Yeah, and that's all I have.
Okay, next I'm gonna be talking about social media recruiting. And first I'm gonna talk about like what social media recruiting is, and then I'm gonna get into the major websites that they use while social media recruiting. And then also I'm gonna tell you some tips to use while you're on social media and the best ways to go about it. Okay, so I'm pretty sure everyone in here knows what social media is. One way or another, you either have a profile of some kind or seen it in one way or another. Social media recruitment is recruiting candidates by using platforms as a talent database or advertising your products or services. Okay, first I'm gonna talk about LinkedIn, which is probably the most popular and the best site for social media recruiting. We got 400 million plus users, and 90% of companies use LinkedIn. And what makes LinkedIn better than other sites is they have a lot of passive users, so that means that they're not actively looking for jobs. And one of the great features of LinkedIn is creating a company page. That can give you helps you build your brand and show your company culture, and it shows like people looking for a job that you're a good company and you're like reliable. And another thing, a great part is an employee referral.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, another feature is employee referral, which means like is when someone from inside the company like recommends someone that they find reliable and that would fit the position. So it's also known as like an internal hire, which is the most effective source of recruiting, both by volume and quantity. The next site I want to talk about is Facebook, and Facebook is the second most trafficked website in the world, only behind Google. They claim to have over 2 billion users, and it spans across 40 countries. So just that alone, like this huge network of people where you can go on and find jobs and stuff like that. Next is Twitter, which is probably like the third in the out of the three. So Twitter is good because they use a lot of hashtags and trending, so you can search the job you're looking for and find all the posts that you have under that hashtag. And then this is just like a chart I found. The green bar is the people looking for jobs, and the purple is the recruiters. And as you can see, more recruiters favor LinkedIn, and a lot more applicants or people looking for jobs like Facebook. I think that's because Facebook is a lot more like recreational than LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a lot more professional. Next, I'm going to talk about Instagram, which is probably the least, but I think it's up and coming. I think why Instagram's behind the others is Instagram's the hardest to share. Like other people's post is your own. And then here I just have a graph showing that like the one on the left says people's top choice for customer care, and you can see that in the pie graph, most people like social media. I think it's just easiest, it's just kind of like texting someone. If you message someone on social media, they can just answer you immediately. Next, people will usually ask about social media is, do recruiters look at your social media pages? And I saw in studies that about 70%, but I would just assume that they're gonna look at your profile no matter what. And it's not always a bad thing because recruiters are trying to hire people, they're looking for people to hire, not someone not to hire. And then I also have some tips when using social media. Even if you have stuff on there that can tarnish your like reputation, like don't delete your profile completely because then when they come to look for you, then they have nowhere to find you. Employee branding, that's like when a company makes like, for example, a page on LinkedIn, and that shows candidates who they are and what they do, and they can tell them about themselves. And that's how candidates look when they're applying for a new job. From my personal experience, this is my friend growing up, and he got recruited out of high school, and he realized when he was like a junior that his profile could change his whole life. If he put something up there, he can get it, like he won't be able to play at the next level. Going off of that, I went to a Catholic high school, and this kid went to my school, and he got expelled for putting out tweets about racial slurs and sexual graphic tweets. And this was 10 days before he was going to sign to college, and he lost like 20 offers 10 days before he was about to sign to like a college. So like you got to realize that like your social media profile is your reputation, and that sticks with you, like goes on, and it can affect your future. Also going off of that, this is another personal experience. Over the summer, I worked for a landscaping company, and most of their work was done just like word of mouth. And like just telling people about his services. And then over the summer, he made his own Instagram page so he can obviously find more people to do work for. And just social media overall is a great tool for recruiting because it doesn't just hurt you. It can help you in many ways get jobs and the recruiter to know more about you. And with that, we're going on to Sean to talk about the next topic. Click the play button.
All right, guys. I'm going to be talking about selecting search committees, job postings online, and implementing the recruitment plans. After developing a recruitment plan, your next step would have to select the search committee. This has to be done to ensure applicants selected for interviews and final consideration are evaluated by more than one individual. The hiring manager will identify members who will have direct and indirect interaction with the applicant. A member of the committee will be appeared as the affirmative action person and who will mentor the affirmative action aspects of the committee. Women are to have equal opportunity to serve on the search committees, and special efforts should be made to encourage participation. Departments that look diversity on their own staff should consider appointing staff outside the department or develop alternatives to brand the opportunity. For positions that are frequently recruited and utilize search committees, the mix as well as minimize a big thing is groupthink. This is big for, sorry about that. Can I pause?
Sure.
Let's go back. All right. So positions that are frequently recruited and utilize a search committee, the mix to accommodate members should change frequently as well to minimize the risk for all groupthink. If you don't know what groupthink is, it's when people come to a conclusion about a product like Apple, and it might not always be the best one. The hiring manager will determine the size of and the composition of the committee based on the nature of its proportion. It's highly recommended that the committee members include at least one individual with a strong understanding of the role, a job specialist, and an individual who will interact closely with the person. Search committee members should ensure they are well equipped for the role in the recruitment process and ensure fairness and compliance. They must ensure no conflict of interest in the retaliation of applicants with consideration and never be individuals who may interact with this position. Each committee member is expected to be well versed in the recruitment and selection process and have an understanding of the laws related to affirmative action. At a minimum, each committee member must have completed at least one of these actions. And it's either training workplace, affirmative action 101, training workshop, recruitment and selection strategies for the hiring manager, training workshop supporting recruitment and selection process, recruitment, advertising and affirmative action, or diversity and training search committee tutorial. That's not it. It is recommended the committee communicates prior to the application review to determine the criteria for evaluations. The search committee chair should ensure that all members of the committee are thoroughly familiar with the job description. Once the job position description has been completed, the position can be posted to a career site. Every effort should be made to ensure the accuracy of this job description. It may not be possible to change the elements of the position after they're posted because it may affect the applicant pool. In order to post the position, the requisition is created by the Human Resource Director. Once approved, the department HR coordinator will review the requisition and route online to the HR classification analyst who will assign the classification. The requisition is then routed to the HR analyst who will post the position online. Applicants can be reviewed and disappointed once the minimum number of posting days can be reached. Continuous monitoring of the recruitment activity. Continuous monitoring of the recruitment activity and recruitment plan effectiveness is critical to a successful search. A successful recruitment plan includes actionable steps and strategies that make recruitment process efficient. And these are the 9 steps of the recruiting process that I found were very, very useful, which is identify the hiring need, plan what you need, write the job description, build up the candidate pool, review applications, telephone screening, face-to-face interviews, make an offer, and hire candidates. A recruitment plan can solve many problems that technical recruiters currently face. It is by no means a solution for every recruitment problem. However, it plays a huge role in avoiding many common problems and streamlines the recruitment process. All right, now for my personal experiences. I mean, I haven't recruited in the job, like for jobs really, but I recruited like younger kids in both football and ice hockey. For the football aspect of it, I taught like football camps for the younger kids in middle school. So when I was a junior and senior, I would go with some of my friends and teach the little kids like how to play football better and try to recruit them to join our high school team. And also in ice hockey, I did kind of a similar thing. I would recruit kids. I was one of the middle school hockey coaches, so I would teach kids how to play hockey and try to get them to join our team. So I was recruited that way, implemented that. And overall, the recruitment process and searching for the right people is very helpful, and it's better. It just makes the process move along faster. So now I'm gonna pass it on to Ed.
So I'm doing searching for this recruitment process. My portion consists of basically the difference between hunting and gathering, how to identify viable candidates, and what it takes for these processes to be performed successfully. Now, companies must identify their hiring need and plan this process out before beginning the search. Not only does that make the process work more efficiently, but also make it a lot more effective. After all, it's very hard to find something that you can't even identify what you want in the first place. Example of this: companies who do not implement planning into the searching process end up obtaining the wrong people for the job. So this is Jahlil Okafor. He was drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. They already had a big man, and they got him again. So he didn't really work out for that team, and that's just an example of not really planning out the process. Another example would be my favorite hockey team, the New York Islanders. They're playing tonight too. So we had lost our first player, our best player, at the beginning of this past season, and the Islanders, hold on, give me a second. So they recruited a bunch of players that fit right into the team instead of a bunch of players that actually were really superstar players. So they just have a bunch of guys who work well together. So moving on, candidates. In searching process, hunting and gathering are entirely different. Companies are able to gather many candidates without recruiting at all, really. So they just, they have their job website where they post their job listings. Also, there's a bunch of different websites where they could post those. And this is Walter Payton. When you're good at something, you'll tell everyone. When you're great at something, they'll tell you. So this is the difference between gathering and hunting. So the people who are good for the job or okay for the job, they're going to tell you and apply for you. But the people who are great at the job, you're going to have to go and hunt them out. So example of active recruiting or hunting would be attend a university such as Rowan for a career day or fair. They have those all the time. Additionally, at these events, recruiters and job seekers converse about exactly what it is that they need. And then active recruiting is more tedious and possibly more costly because you might have to hire people on like a recruiting team or like a headhunter. But to find the exact candidate a company needs, they're going to have to see that factor firsthand. So Duke basketball team was able to recruit 3 of the top 5 high school players in this past season. They weren't able to do this by just sitting down and saying we're a great basketball program. They had to make these guys pretty much believe that they could do great things. So this is just an example of Coach K. He is probably the greatest college basketball coach, if not the greatest basketball coach of all time. And what he did was help them believe that they can be a part of a team that would be the greatest team of all time. So this is, I don't know if you guys know who Simon Sinek is. He invented this. It's called the Golden Circle, and a lot of businesses use this. But a lot of businesses would use what, how, and why. So every business knows what they do. Every business knows how, kind of what they do, but very few businesses know why they do it. So this can actually be applied to the recruiting process as well. So when you're talking to somebody that you want to recruit, they would be like an A-list employee. You talk to them about why you think first, and then you go on to how and what. So at the end of my senior year of high school, I was recruited by a couple of schools to try for baseball. There were two places I looked at, one being here and one being the University of Tampa. Now, Tampa had a lot to offer. I mean, that goes without saying. It's very beautiful. They have a great baseball team, and if I did well there, it could have been a different kind of future for me. However, the coach was unaware of all the things that I kind of thought were more important than what he thought were important. So one thing's family, obviously. So one thing, if I went to Tampa, if something horrible happened, God forbid, I would have to get on a plane, which would take a lot more time and everything to plan out. In fact, like this semester, something ended up happening, so I could just drive right back. So that was one thing. Another example is my friend. He graduated from Penn State with an economics degree, and he got a lot of job offers over the summer. And he didn't take any of them, and he actually just started working as a pizza delivery guy. So he didn't take any of them because he didn't believe that they were right enough for him until he found a place finally in November. So the Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you're selling, they buy why you're doing it, and you do simply improves everything. So organizations, when searching for the right candidate, also should be willing to prepare for why that candidate would fit in, instead of just saying, hey, you should work here, we're a great place. When you think like that, it's more appealing to the possible candidate, possibly more appealing than a paycheck. In summary, first few steps in the recruitment process must be checked off before searching for the recruiting starts. It makes the process much more effective and efficient. Candidates buy why you do it, not what you do. And organizations must engage in hunting for the best candidates and not gathering candidates. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ryan. We'll be talking about interviewing.
How's everyone doing today? Doing good. So I'm Ryan Newman, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the interview process. And I want to start today by asking you guys a question. So who here has ever had an experienced interview? Who's went to an interview either at school or work? Okay, so most people have had an experienced interview. That's good because I want to. So that's good because hopefully what I say today you can kind of relate to, and interviews can happen throughout your life for years. You might be at a job where you're like, I'm not going to ever need this again, but you never know. 10, 20 years from now, you might have a new job, you might have to move across the country, and you might have to do another interview. So this is the selection process, and the interview is the single most important step in the selection process. It's the opportunity for the employer and the prospective employee to learn more about each other and validate information provided by both. So this is where they kind of pick you out and see what they want in you. So this is the company. The company always they have to figure out a way to pick people. So at a normal desk job, there's 3 to 5 people that want to go for the job. Okay. So the committee chair should determine the following. Format the interview and order the questions to be asked of all the applicants, and the way to assign who's going to ask the questions And that's a very important step because when you have a panel interview and there's 5 people stepping in front of you, each person can ask a question a different way. So you could take things the wrong way, or someone could say something to you and you could say something better because you feel like they relate to you. So in a panel interview, it's better for people to have certain people pick out what they're going to say to the interviewee, and the optimal start date for the position and details applicants may need about the role. So this is a panel interview, just like I was talking about. And prior to the panel interview, committee members should ensure that which questions that will be asked. The start of the interview introduces the chair members, including names and job titles should be given. And the chair should outline the format of their interview for the candidate so that the candidate is aware of what's happening. So a typical panel interview format, it's just the introduction of the panel member, a brief description of the role that you will perform, description of how the interview panel will conduct the interview. The candidate gives an overview of the experience, and each panel member provides their questions or conclusions of the interview. And inform the next step, and make sure you thank the person who came in. So the next one is a virtual interview. So this is developed for people who live across country, and it makes it fair for everyone applying for the job. Makes it fair for everyone who's applying for the job because if I'm a local guy and I live 10 miles from the job and a guy who lives in California, it wouldn't be fair because I'll have an advantage knowing local activities, and you have to have a fair chance for everyone. So interview questions this is interview questions. So questions should be about the position and seek information on specific skills and abilities to further the job, such as describe your experience working with students in an academic environment. So if you're going to go apply for a teacher's job, you're not going to be asked questions on how to clean bathrooms or be a janitor. You're going to ask questions on how you interact with students and how you react with other employees in like a teacher's lounge. The use of behavioral and competency-based interval questions are encouraged here because this kind of goes back to how in a panel interview, certain people can ask certain things and you can get a different response from the interviewee. So it's kind of a vibe feeling of how you interact with their interviewee. And the interviewee can obtain meaningful data to determine the applicant's ability to carry out the detailed responsibilities of the job. So the next one is breaking the ice. Interviewing can be a very stressful situation, and it's a different experience for every person. The more at ease the interviewee is, the better we're able to identify the attributes. So I always say when you go on an interview, you should actually try to break the ice. If you have a panel of 5 people, you should go in there and shake their hand and introduce yourself and say like, oh, well, this is what I'm here for. This is what I like. Introduce yourself because you can make a connection with someone on the panel and it can benefit you. That's later in a personal experience. I'm going to talk about that, how it benefited me. I
tell you what, just take us home. We don't have to see the slides.
There you go. You got it.
Okay, so welcome the interviewee. So you have to break the ice. You should make the interviewee have proper directions on how to get there. Make sure the parking details are good, easy accessible for on the date. And the 80-20 rule is big because in an interview, the interviewee should be talking 80% of the time. The people on the panel should be only talking 20% of the time. If it's not like that, it's not a good interview. There's you can take a test or a presentation during an interview, such as requesting work or writing samples or presentations and additional tools that are assessed candidates. Tests should not be relied upon as the only screening method because some people are just bad test takers. For instance, here, I'm not a great test taker. I'm not good under pressure. I should probably get better test grades in here, but I do okay, but I'm not the greatest at it. So if you're going to base somebody on getting a job on a test, that's not fair to everyone. So most of the weight for an interview should be one-on-one interaction. interviews should carry most considerable weight in the overall decision process, and applicants can provide job-related characteristics of completion for coursework of technical certificates to avoid tests. So employee guidelines for tests, you should race, color, origin, sex, religion, age, that shouldn't matter. Determine whether the tests apply for skills that the applicant's there for. They have to update test selection procedures accordingly, and they must ensure that tests do not get in managers' hands who don't know what they're doing. Because managers can sometimes, if they're sneaky managers, they can maybe tell the person the wrong thing to say if they don't like the person. And employers should ensure that tests and the selection procedures are properly validated for the positions and purposes for which they apply for. So this is just getting the personal experiences. So I went to Woodstown High School in Salem County, and it is a public high school, but I had to apply to get into it because I don't know if anyone's heard of like the vocational academy. So each high school in Salem County has a different vocational thing. So I applied for communications. So there was 50 kids. There was 50 kids in the county that applied for it, and the only 25 to 30 kids each year get selected out of 50. And to be honest, the kids that went to this program, they can't be like slackers. They're high kids. So I feel like I got in because I'm pretty good at relating with people, and I think I did really good on my panel interview. So I feel like I had a connection with somebody on the panel interview. When I went to Woodstown, I had a panel interview just like this. There was the superintendent of the school, the principal, the communications teacher. There was a woman sitting on a computer typing out every word I said. And so, two, I had a connection with somebody on the panel. The teacher of the communications program was a Mets fan, and I'm a Mets fan. So, that might have helped me out in the long run of getting in the program. And then after the program, I had to do a 1,500-word essay, a test, or a presentation after the interview. And it was on how media and TV affects your outlook on life. And that's on the spot, just like you would have at any job. So you can't really prepare for it. You have to go on past knowledge of what you think. So I did that on the spot, and it was kind of difficult, but I think I did all right. So I worked at Amazon from 2016 to 2017. I worked there for a year. I personally didn't. It's a very chaotic place to work. I'm pretty sure everyone has heard of Amazon. That's a picture of the facility. So, for example, around Christmas time, the place I worked at Amazon shipped packages all over the whole area. So from Dover to Philadelphia to Trenton to Lehigh Valley, all the way down to Cape May. So for Christmas time, there's 4 shifts in a day, and there would be 150 to 200,000 packages per shift. So in one day around Christmas time, there's about 800,000 packages going through one warehouse in Logan Township, New Jersey. So it's a very chaotic place to work. And I didn't have no bosses. At Amazon, there's no bosses. There's 200 people working on the floor, and you're just getting instructed where to go. And getting into that, I'm going to get into my interview at Amazon. I didn't like Amazon because there wasn't really an interview. I went there, and we got in the cafeteria with 50 other people. And the closest thing I had to an interview at Amazon was a drug test. Everyone there is just treated as a number. So there wasn't no recruiting. There was no interview. It was my first job. So my first job, I just wanted to get there and get money. I highly tell you, do not do that. If you go to a job and there's no interview and you're just with a bunch of people, it's not going to be good. And that wasn't good. And then just to summarize what I'm trying to say is when in an interview, you shouldn't feel just like a number. If you feel at any time when you're done, you feel just like a number, it's not the right job. That's why Amazon didn't work out. I had another job previously last summer, and I didn't feel like a number. It was a local liquor store, and they actually treated me nice. And I was like, wow, this is a really good job, but I could only have it for the summer. So, and just summarizing, just don't feel like a number. Actually feel like they care about you during the interview. And that's our presentation.
Okay. I will see you next Tuesday. Look for an email with an assignment. And for those who presented today, come on back here and grab these.
I think it's good.
You didn't do that yet? Yeah, what's the deal? You didn't do that yet? I honestly thought we would. Like,
I got something yesterday, but I didn't know how long it was going to be.
oh, wait, okay.
You want me to set up Yeah.
That's not yours.
Yeah. That's what I was doing anyway, but I
Must be that
wasn't.
like you. Quentin? Janice?
But I did.
Newman? Yes, please, don't forget to write down here on the here today day. Do it. Yeah, I just have like 7 sheets left. I don't think they're for this class, so let's I can tell we're getting to the end. Yeah. I always get classes as well.
Yeah, it is. I hope so.
It's going to. It's everything's flying over my head right now.
Sup? Student university programs.
Wait, so you don't actually work for them?
No, I volunteer.
I was gonna say, you could get me more fried Oreos. I already got one. No. Lame. Not lame, like lame. They have fried Oreos this afternoon.
See here. Yeah, they do it occasionally.
And just get the presentation
That's
right
basically
up.
fried Oreos. I actually work for them right now. Lakewood Blue Claws. If you ever go out to Lakewood to the Blue Claws game, I run the help run the funnel cake stand.
And they do fried Oreos.
Oh yeah, that's good too.
Yes.
I just help out with that though. I'm gonna be leaving there soon because I'm gonna be going full time in the summer, so it's gonna be too much.
Yeah.
So I won't have any days off. Because I work during the week and that's mostly weekends.
Candy,
Okay.
Yeah.
check me. Oh, 259 words. Check me out.
Whoa.
Man,
He's gonna have to dock you for those 9 words.
Yeah.
You lose a point for each word you go over.
2 points.
2
What?
points, you lose.
That's fine.
Oh, I forgot to,
You're it's tough.
I